Today's movie review is on a recent movie that was on Netflix. I watched it last night and I surprisingly found myself glued to it the whole time, which means I only picked my phone up like a few times through it. So this is doing good for me and a Netflix movie. The name of the movie is Woman in the Window, and there aren't going to be any spoiler alerts in this video, so don't worry about that. I'm just going to go over like the general storyline, like something that you're going to read just like on the little Netflix description, that type thing. We're going to talk about some of the characters and the actors, actresses that are playing them, and my opinion like on the movie, the plot, and just how it all went. The movie is based on a best-selling novel by A.J. Finn, and the reviews for the novel are amazing. I have not read the book at the time of this recording, but just from watching the film, I have a feeling that the book is going to grip you and not let you put it down until you finish it. I find that to be the case with so many books that end up being translated into film. However, with this one, you can tell that there's a lot of nuances going on, a lot of the ways that the director is like playing out the scenery, the cinematography, the character development, that type thing that you're probably not going to get from the film that you would get in the book. If you're the type person that would prefer to read the book and get those nuances, I would say don't watch the movie yet, read the book, and then watch the movie. But if you don't want to wait, then this one's for you. Let's talk about why. This film is directed by Joe Wright. He's an English film director, and he's best known for Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, Anna Katrina, and Darkest Hour. This film is very reminiscent of Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, and in fact the director does pay homage to Alfred Hitchcock in this with some of his styles of shooting and references. The film stars Amy Adams as Dr. Anna Fox, Julianne Moore as Jane, Wyatt Russell as David, Dr. Fox's tenant, Gary Oldman as Alistair Russell, and Fred Hissinger as Ethan Russell. Now, I felt that the performances in this movie were amazing, especially Julianne Moore and especially Amy Adams. That is not to say that the other actors and actresses were not, good or noteworthy, but these two people are kind of the central focus of it, and that is the part that I was just like, wow, they did a really amazing job in this. So they kept me entertained. I believed them is the biggest thing. Now, another thing that could go one or two ways in this movie, but I do think they did it well, is the setting. So remember, this is a movie about somebody who has agoraphobia and they can't leave the house. So the entire thing basically takes place in this home, but also through her viewpoint of like what the neighbors are doing and stuff, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So the setting, and this is another place where you see some techniques that like Hitchcock was, famous for and whatnot. So you see that in this movie as well. I felt like the director, cinematography, all that type stuff did a very good job at keeping the visual part of this movie interesting as well. Now, there were some like little, nuggets here and there that I was like, how's that work? And especially this, but isn't this true for like every movie or TV show based in New York? I was just like, how does she afford this house, that the neighbor calls a dump in the middle of Manhattan? And I should clarify, when I say how does she afford it, I mean by not ever being able to leave the house. So let's talk about a general overview. Again, this is not going to be like spoiler alerts to all the twists and turns in this film, so don't worry. Anna Fox is a children's psychologist who hasn't left her house in 10 months. She's agoraphobic and becomes obsessed with her new neighbors and solving a brutal crime she witnessed from her window. So like I said, Amy Adams does an amazing job at portraying this agoraphobic psychologist, Anna Fox. Now in this film, Anna lives separated from her husband and her daughter. Okay, so one of the obvious questions about this film that you're going to naturally go into it with is, why is she agoraphobic? Well, they do answer that, and I'm not going to answer it here, obviously, because I don't want to ruin it for you, but they do answer it. Now, here's my thing. They could have literally just that storyline rested a movie on that alone. We're coming out of lockdowns. It's kind of like this viewpoint into what the last year has been like for a lot of people. And so that psychological aspect to a film like this, a storyline like this, literally could have been enough for me to be like, I'm intrigued. What'd you do for the last year? Type situation. Like I said previously, Dr. Fox becomes obsessed with like looking out of her window and watching the neighbors and stuff. Now through this obsession, you will see like little flashbacks of hers that begin to give you hints of, oh, okay, so that's what happened. Obviously they're going to keep the the lens murky throughout so that there's a bigger moment later in the film. Now, yes, as stated before, she does witness a brutal crime through her window. And at this point, this is when the film takes like more away from the psychological aspect of what makes somebody agoraphobic and what do they do to pass the time into like a traditional murder mystery component. Dr. Fox will end up pouring all of her time into researching and trying to figure out about a particular group of people, a particular family that she watches from her window. Now for me, this dynamic of the film, like I said, I'm just like, oh my God, like, you know, people straight up do that. Now, between Dr. Fox, her tenant, the police, all these people that are involved in this movie, it literally has you saying, well, maybe this person did this. Well, maybe that's not real. Well, maybe this is real. I don't know, but it's got me hooked. Now, by the time you get to the part in the movie that's like, okay, we get it. We know why she's agoraphobic. Okay, we get it. We know who really did what across the street. Okay, we get it. This is what really happened. I mean, we're talking like the last, you know, kind of little bit of the film here. It does leave you saying, my God almighty, that roller coaster had a lot of twists and turns to it. Now, on the same note, some of it feels like they were a little bit like, here's the answer, we've neatly tied it up with a little bow on it, pretend to guess at it even though it was pretty obvious. Now, there was something additional that I found interesting while I was looking into this film, and in July 2019, the Hollywood Reporter had something to say about this film and when they were testing it out on audiences. It was reported that the test left audiences confused. This would end up causing the film to be pushed from 2019 to 2020 as the studio tried to redo their reshoots and things of that nature. Now, there were other setbacks and whatnot in getting this film out there, but I did find that part to be interesting. Now, let's kind of retrace back here. So remember I said, you know, this was a book, it was turned into this. I could totally see how trying to translate the book, and like I said, I have not read it, but just knowing that there was a book based on this and seeing the final product on film, I can see where there would be some lost in translation with the screenplay and how it might be a little bit tricky and how, yes, it could have left people going, huh? Because it was a very complex situation and story to tell with a lot of layers to it, and unfortunately I just don't think that you can accomplish that on film. So here's my thing. Like I say, I kind of rate things like this. My thing is this: if I pick the phone up just a few times and pause the movie to check my phone, that means I'm like, I want to know what happens. If I am just scrolling through my phone while watching it, it's just filler, you don't need to bother, okay? And then anywhere in between, you know, you're doing okay. So like I said, I would actually pause the damn film to look at my phone. Now, here's the thing. If I didn't pause the film to look at the phone and I was just glued to it, it's a banger. Y'all, we're talking damn blockbuster hit up in here, okay? So there's that. It was definitely worth watching. It was definitely a good movie for Netflix. I feel like a lot of Netflix movies just fall flat. And while this one, I'm like, yeah, you know what? It had some of its issues. I mean, I'm sorry. I was like, it kept me entertained. And I was like, whoa, you know, I'm on this ride and I'm loving it. The performances are great. And the cinematography was wonderful. So I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up. And I would highly suggest checking it out. Now, if you want to see some more of my reviews, I also do like story time type things. If you just want to hear me talk about the plot to a movie that you didn't want to watch, check those out. Go look at the other videos on my channel. And also, if you like true crime, I have a true crime channel. It's called Reporting Live from My Sofa, where I make commentary on all different types of true crime going on in the real world. So be sure and check that out. I appreciate you watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you on my next movie binge.